Every morning, before the sun is even up, thousands of diesel owners across the world unknowingly perform a small 5-minute ritual that's quietly killing their engines. They think they're protecting their trucks, warming them up the right way, but in reality, they're slowly setting their engines up for early turbo failure, clogged DPFs, worn injectors, and costly repairs. It's one of the most common diesel myths ever believed, and it's draining owners of thousands of dollars every single year. But here's the shocking truth. Nearly 70% of diesel owners use the wrong warm-up method every single day. This video reveals the scientifically proven way to warm up your diesel engine the right way, the method professional mechanics, truck technicians, and engine engineers actually use to protect performance and extend engine life. And stick around till the end, because the biggest mistake diesel owners make doesn't happen before driving, it happens after they think the engine is already warm. Why diesels are so different? Before we talk about the right way, you need to understand why diesel engines warm up differently from gasoline engines. Gas engines use spark plugs to ignite fuel. But diesel engines rely on compression ignition squeezing air so tightly that it gets hot enough to ignite the fuel on its own. That process makes diesels powerful, efficient, and built for the long haul, but it also makes them less forgiving in cold conditions. When the temperature drops, a diesel engine faces 3 major issues. Thick engine oil. Cold oil turns thick like syrup. It doesn't flow easily, increasing friction and wear on internal components. Cold combustion chambers. The metal is cold, so the injected fuel doesn't fully burn. This causes incomplete combustion and leads to carbon buildup. Poor fuel vaporization. Diesel fuel doesn't vaporize well in the cold, so you get rough idling, smoke, and poor efficiency. During a cold start, all 3 problems combine, meaning your engine suffers more wear in the first few minutes of driving than during hundreds of miles of normal operation. That's why how you warm it up matters so much. The costly mistake most diesel owners make. Now let's talk about the #1 mistake that silently destroys diesel engines. Long idling before driving. You've probably seen it. Drivers start their truck, let it idle for 10, 15, sometimes even 20 minutes before hitting the road. They think they're being gentle. But here's the truth. Long idling hurts your diesel more than it helps. Here's why. Diesel engines are so efficient that at idle, they produce almost no heat. They burn very little fuel and operate at low combustion temperatures. That means they take forever to warm up, and during that time, they're actually damaging themselves. At low temperatures, diesel fuel doesn't burn completely. The unburned fuel and soot start to accumulate inside the cylinders, exhaust system, and turbocharger, a condition known as wet stacking. Wet stacking is every diesel mechanic's nightmare. iClog Yacht leaves behind layers of carbon and unburned diesel that foul your injectors, your DPF, and shorten turbo life dramatically. And since your oil stays thick at idle, it never reaches the temperature it needs to properly lubricate bearings, camshafts, and turbos. Your engine might sound smooth, but inside, metal parts are grinding with minimal protection. Worse yet, prolonged idling keeps exhaust temperatures too low for the diesel particulate filter, DPF, to regenerate. That soot you see? It's sticking inside the DPF. Over time, it builds up until the filter clogs, and replacing one can cost anywhere from $1,300 to $3,000. So while you think you're being careful, your diesel is slowly choking itself to death. The correct way to warm up a diesel engine. So what's the right way to do it? It's actually simple. Keep idle time short, then drive gently under light load. Let's break it down based on outside temperature. Above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. Idle your diesel for 30 to 60 seconds, just long enough for the oil pressure to build up and flow through the system. Then, drive away gently, keeping the RPMs under 2,000 until the temperature gauge starts to rise. Between 0 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees Celsius to 10 degrees Celsius. Let it idle for 2 to 3 minutes. That gives the thicker oil enough time to circulate and reach all components. Once that's done, begin driving slowly and smoothly, keeping engine load light until it warms up. below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 Celsius and below. Idle for no more than 5 minutes. Even in extreme cold, idling longer than 7 minutes provides no benefit. It actually begins to cause the wet stacking problem we talked about earlier. After that short idle, get moving, but keep it easy. Light throttle, low RPM, and gentle driving for the first few miles. Here's the secret. Diesel engines need load to warm up efficiently. When you drive under light load, the engine burns more fuel, combustion temperatures rise, and everything oil, coolant, transmission, and even differential fluid warms up faster and evenly. Idling can't do that. How to drive during warm-up. Here's the rule of thumb. Keep RPMs below 2,000 for the first 5 to 10 minutes. Avoid heavy acceleration or towing during this time. Don't go full throttle until both coolant and oil reach operating temperature. Most drivers rely on the coolant gauge, but that's misleading. Coolant warms up fast, oil doesn't. The oil can take 10 to 15 minutes longer to reach its proper viscosity. Until then, it can't fully protect your engine or turbocharger. And speaking of the turbo, that's the part most at risk. A turbocharger can spin up to 150,000 RPM, and it relies on a thin layer of hot oil to keep its bearings from wearing out. When you rev too early or use boost before the oil's hot, you're sending cold, thick oil into those bearings, and that's a fast track to turbo failure. So be patient, let the oil catch up. That patience could easily add 100,000 miles to your turbo's life. Cold weather. Helpers. Tools you should use. If you live in a colder region, there are a few tools that can make warm-ups faster and protect your engine even more. Block heaters. A block heater warms your engine block, coolant, and oil before you even start. Plug it in 2 to 4 hours before starting your vehicle, and you'll notice the difference immediately. Faster starts, smoother idling, and less engine wear. You don't need it plugged in overnight, that just wastes power. Use a timer to switch it on a few hours before you typically leave. Battery warmers. Cold kills batteries. At freezing temperatures, a car battery loses 35% of its power. At 0 derf, it loses up to 60%. Since diesel engines need huge cranking power, that loss can mean no start at all. A battery warmer keeps it at a healthy temperature, ensuring strong starts in any weather. Winter. Fuel additives. Diesel fuel can gel in cold weather, forming wax crystals that block fuel filters. That's why winter-grade fuel or anti-gel additives are essential. They lower the fuel's cold filter plugging point so it stays liquid and flowing even in sub-zero conditions. Don't forget the transmission and differential. Here's something most diesel owners never think about when you warm up your engine. That's not the only system that needs heat. Your transmission and differential are also filled with thick oil. When cold, those fluids flow slowly, and forcing them to work under high load can cause internal wear. Idling the engine doesn't warm them up. But when you drive gently, the transmission and differential warm up together with the engine, evenly and safely. If your vehicle has a manual transmission, be extra gentle with your shifts during the first few minutes. Cold oil makes the synchronizers stiff, and rough shifting can cause long-term damage. Smooth, slow shifts let everything come up to temperature gradually. The hidden warm-up myth. Coolant versus oil temperature. Now here's one of the most misunderstood parts of diesel warm-up, the coolant gauge. When that needle hits the normal mark, most drivers assume the engine is fully warmed up, but that's not true at all. The coolant might be hot, but the engine oil is still cold. Oil temperature usually lags 10 to 15 minutes behind coolant temperature. So even though the gauge says you're good, your oil might still be thick and not ready for high RPMs or boost. If your vehicle has an oil temperature gauge, use it. That's the real indicator of when your engine's ready for full power. If it doesn't, play it safe. Continue driving gently for at least 15 to 20 minutes total before heavy acceleration or towing. That one habit alone can extend your engine's life more than any additive, tune, or aftermarket part ever will. Turbo cool down, the forgotten step. We've talked about warming up, but cooling down is just as critical, especially for turbocharged diesels. After towing, climbing steep grades, or highway driving, your turbocharger can be glowing hot. If you shut the engine off immediately, the oil inside the turbo stops flowing while it's still spinning at high speed. The remaining oil burns into carbon, forming deposits that choke the bearings. To prevent that, let your engine idle for 30 to 90 seconds after hard driving. This short cool-down period keeps oil flowing while the turbo slows and cools safely. If you have an EGT gauge, wait until exhaust temperatures drop to around 300–400 degrees before turning off the key. That small habit dramatically extends turbo life. Final thoughts. The right way to treat a diesel. Let's wrap it up with the simple truth. Stop idling for long periods. It's not helping your engine, it's hurting it. Keep warm-up short, then drive gently under light load. Allow your oil, coolant, and drivetrain to warm up evenly. Use block heaters and additives if you live in cold climates. And always remember to cool down the turbo after hard driving. These small, disciplined habits make the difference between a diesel engine that fails at 150,000 miles and one that runs like new past 400,000. So the next time you start your truck on a cold morning, skip the long idle. Give it what it really needs, a smart, gentle, loaded warm-up. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with every diesel owner you know. Because now, you don't just own a diesel, you understand it.